So welcome to lesson number 2 and module number 2, the ad manager. So in the previous lesson, we talked about the business manager. Today, I want to go over the ad manager, which today is the main source of running ads. For those of you that have been in this industry for at least a year, you know that there used to be a power editor and an ad manager. Today, there's no power editor, there's just an ad manager, which is kind of the combination of the power editor with the ad manager. So I really wanted to touch on that a bit. For those of you that aren't completely aware of every single thing that you can do on it, or for those of you that think that you know every single thing but you don't. Now, quickly, in a quick nutshell, the Ads Manager is basically the main tool you'll be using to creating, managing, and running all of your campaigns. That's where you're going to be running your ads, your campaign. That's where you're going to be looking over them, analyzing them, scaling them, optimizing them. That's where you're going to be making the millions. Not just kidding. I can't say that you'll be making millions, but you get what I'm saying. All of the ads are going to be run through the Ads Manager because that's the main hub. That's where you launch the ads, look at them, close them, shut them off. That's where you do all of that. So let's do a quick overview on that. Now, this is the Ads Manager, right? Now, if I click here, you're gonna basically, this is the ad account, right? Now, I don't wanna click here and show you all of my different ad accounts, again, not to disclose too much information, but this specific ad manager account is for BetML. So this is my ad account. This is where one of at least the ad accounts that I run my personal stuff. If it's education or lead generation or whatever, that's where this is the account that I usually run my personal stuff. So if I click here, you're going to see all of the different ad accounts, ad managers for different businesses or different business managers and so on. Now in the ad manager, you have a few things. You have the account overview, which is basically the summarization of your entire account. Anything from how much you spent, conversions that you've made. We usually do not look at that too much. We only deal with campaigns, ad sets, and ads. So campaigns is the main is where you actually pick your objective, and then through the campaign you're gonna have ad sets, you're gonna have ads, right? So inside the campaign you have ad sets, inside ad sets you have ads. So think about like a campaign, a house or a city. And then ad sets being the houses, and then the ads being the rooms in the house, okay? Every campaign has ad sets, and every ad set has ads. Now, in a second as well, I'm going to explain to you, just in case for you that don't really know what it essentially is in every single one of these metrics are, or at least one of these different ad terms are. I'm going to talk about them in a second. But just for a quick overview, I'm just going to explain to you one by one what it is, like how we actually go through and create a campaign and explain to you every single section. So let's just say, let's call this the Ecom All-Stars campaign, right? Well, I don't write campaign, but usually I write the Ecom, like the name of the campaign and then the objective. So as you know, there's a lot of different objectives. For now, I'm going to show you the one that we use the most, which is conversions, and you're going to probably use that the most as well. So conversions, and then I'll do like Ecom All-Stars purchase or something. And then I'm going to copy and usually paste that. I'm going to change these later on. But this is the campaign, ad set, and ad. I'm going to save that to draft, and then I can go and start editing stuff. So that's our campaign. Again, there's not too much to edit on the campaign level. Most of the editing happens on the ad set level. Okay, so we have the actual ad set. This is where most of the juice of the ad is actually, like the spine of it. Okay, so first of all, I wanted it to be like a purchase, right? So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna click purchase. Of course, you can decide what to optimize on, but for this example, we chose purchase. Now, this is where you're gonna optimize for your conversion. App and Messenger, this is basically the different types of conversions. So app is, again, it's for apps. Messenger is more for sending people directly through your Messenger bot. Dynamic creative, this is actually a pretty good one, where you can test different creatives dynamically with it being a bit more organized. Again, we do not use this too much. We use the old-fashioned doing either a lot of images through different ad sets or a few ads under one ad set. Again, we're going to talk about split testing later on. Offer is a great one as well. This is basically giving you on the ad itself, it gives you kind of the option to offer something where it's like, let's say a 30% off coupon or anything that you can basically shows scarcity. But the cool thing about the offer when you actually activate this is that when somebody goes in and he sees your ad and let's say he clicks it, then it's going to show that, first of all, the ad itself shows how many people claim the offer. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that if somebody goes through your ad and he doesn't buy, he'll receive notifications that this offer is waiting for him. If it's a 20% off coupon and so on and so on. And we all know the strength of a good retargeting sequence. And this is basically free. So Facebook for free are sending notifications to anybody that has clicked your ad. If you do the offer, if you actually activate the offer one. Now, the thing about the offer tool though, that I didn't like as much is that we cannot use it to maintain the social proof throughout all of the ads. So it's essentially, it's like almost like creating a new ad. And we don't like that as much. We want to have everything under one ad in terms of likes, shares, comments, and the offer basically almost creates like a new ad set. Kind of hard to explain, but if you actually go through it, you'll see what I mean. So budget and schedule, self-explanatory. The budget is how much you want to spend a day. You have lifetime budget as well, which is if you want to spend a specific amount throughout the specific amount of time. Daily budget, you have the start date, the end date, again, whenever you want to start the ad, and if you want a specific date to end it on. Usually we do not put on an end date unless there is a specific promo where we have to put an end date and there's no reason to run it after. But usually we just run it and we just maintain the ads on a daily basis and then shut off whatever we need to shut off. Audience-wise, this is where you do all of your targeting. Custom audiences are your lookalikes from custom audiences that you uploaded. A custom audience is anything from a customer list to a purchase audience. It can be dynamic, it can be static. But the difference between dynamic and static is, like I'd say dynamic is building an audience out of a pixel, so like a purchase or an add to cart. And then a static one is like uploading an email list where it doesn't really update automatically. So again, we're going to talk about that as well later, but this is where you pick the custom audience that you want to target. Locations, countries, anywhere from the United States to Canada to Australia and so on and so on and so on. Ages are ages, genders are genders, languages are languages. Now, this is important that you remember. Anytime a lot of advertisers forget this. Anytime you advertise to countries that aren't English speaking, you should always put English here, because you don't want to get to, if you're targeting Europe, and we do a lot of our targeting outside the US and Canada. Usually actually 80% of our targeting isn't even in the US and Canada. We're targeting like Europe and Asia and the Middle East and a lot of other countries because it's just cheaper there to advertise, and the customers sometimes aren't less good than the customers in the US. So it's really, really important to put English on that audience. Now, on that in this field when you're actually targeting non-English countries. Other than that, when you're actually doing your targeting, let's say ages or genders, you don't want to conclude too much. So it doesn't matter if you're saying jewelry or anything that you think you know your audience. Don't go and decide that you know that your audiences are, let's say, women 18 to 25 or something. Unless you really have tens of thousands of customers and an insane amount of data to conclude this. But most people don't have that data and they just conclude that this is their audience. Now the problem with this is that Facebook is a very smart tool. We really, 90% of our ads are usually just all and like the broadest age possible, because Facebook knows how to optimize in itself. You don't need to tell them too much. You don't need to tell Facebook too much. Of course, the better you target, the easier and faster it's going to be for Facebook to nail down on that audience, but don't overdo it, okay? Detailed targeting is all of your interest, behavior targeting. So anything from dogs to, which is a very, very broad audience, which you don't want to target, to PetSmart. Basically any of the interests that that you want to do your targeting on. This is where you're gonna do that. Of course, you have behaviors as well, which is more. This is the difference between behaviors and interests is that behaviors are more accurate in a way because it's third-party data compared to interests, where it's just like Facebook's conclusion on a specific person. So if you go to behaviors and you go to let's say financial investments, and you have like personal investments or real estate investments, this comes from third-party sources. So sometimes as well it's going to be a bit more expensive to use behaviors, which you can usually see. Let me see if I can find one. Satellite. Yeah, you can see here some of them are going to have this little little disclaimer here at the bottom that says details no more than 15% of your spend will be used to cover data costs, which essentially means that the ad is going to be about 15% more expensive because obviously third-party sources are giving Facebook this data, and somebody needs to pay those third-party sources. So Facebook take 15% of your ad spend and give it to them. So essentially, just your ads are going to be a bit more expensive. Anyway, that's that. We're going to go into that deeper later on. Exclude people is if you want to exclude specific audiences. Narrowing audience is if you want to flex them. Flexing is basically you want to do an and. So let's say you want people that are associated with these interests and they're associated with Game of Thrones, for example. Okay, and then you want to even go deeper and you want them to be associated with say Zara. I guess it's the most random audience in the world. Pets with Game of Thrones with Zara, but you get what I'm talking about. And this will mean that every person is going to see this ad has to be associated with one of these interests and has to be associated with Game of Thrones and has to be associated with Zara. This is how you can really nail down on very, very niche specific audiences if you want. And usually we use this not to kind of nail down between two niches, but to really nail down on our specific niche even more. So let's say we want to go deep into dogs. So we're going to go and we're going to pick like the biggest one, dogs. And then we're going to go and we're going to narrow that to like to a smaller one like PetSmart. And then we're going to pick up a few of these interests here. And then we're going to go even deeper. And we're going to pick something that is the most associated with, or we can just continue to nail down here and pick a different interest. But just for the example, let's say we take the PetSmart from before, remove that, and we're going to put pure PetSmart. And then we can even go deeper than that and pick like, I don't know, like let's say French Bulldogs or something. So then we got to a very nailed down audience in a way. And again, not even this is that much targeted, but it's much targeted than just like putting everything under one roof. So this ad set will basically target people that are associated with the interest dogs, associated with one of these interests, have to be associated with PetSmart, and have to be associated with French Bulldog. So yeah, I hope that explained that good enough. And again, exclude and narrow further. Narrow further is just what I did. Exclude is, as I said before, it's to exclude specific audiences. If you don't want, let's say, to have PetSmart or people associated with PetSmart, you can exclude those people. Expand interest when it may increase conversions. This one is kind of a hit or miss that we use sometimes. Honestly, we'd rather not use this. We use this on our PPEs, but our PPEs, the purpose of our PPEs are not really to make money. They're just to gain social proof. So we'll click this just for Facebook to find more engagement. But conversion-wise, we've noticed that this doesn't really make a difference unless our audience is very, 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 very niche-based and we can't build a more than like 300,000 audience. So basically what I mean by that is 99% of the time, you'll usually have an audience to target, which should be around 1 to 5 million. But let's say you're going to a super deep niche, then we usually will click that if we cannot figure out an audience or there's no audience over 300,000. So let me give you an example. Let's say our niche is steampunk with French bulldogs that shop at Zara, for example. Now, if we combine all of those in the entire US, we'll probably not have more than like 100, 200,000 people. Now, 100, 200,000 people is a very, very small audience in terms of scalability. So we'll usually expand the interest and let Facebook find more people. But again, 99% of the time we'll not use this. Connections is connections to any of your assets, like a Facebook page, like in the apps, people that responded to specific events. Again, this is really, really great if you want to retarget your page. Placements are where your ad should be shown, if it's on the newsfeed, if it's on Audience Network, if it's on Instagram, if it's on Messenger, and so on and so on. We usually use automatic on our test ads, and when we scale, we go to edit placements. And again, we're going to cover all of this later on. Optimization for ad delivery. Now, this is kind of an advanced technique if you want to do something else that isn't essentially associated with what you're optimizing for, because this is going to be default the campaign objective. So our campaign objective is conversions, so it's automatically going to be conversions. But sometimes we don't want to optimize for conversions and we want to optimize for something else, like impressions or daily reach or link clicks or landing page views. So we can go and do that and basically override whatever we put here. Again, this is not necessarily something that you need to know unless you're making like a really good amount of money or you're advanced. So don't even think about this for now. Just focus on just keeping it the default stage of it. Conversion window, I'm going to talk about conversion window as well, but essentially in a nutshell, first of all, the difference between a click and a view is that, okay, first of all, what the conversion window is that it's the amount of time it takes for somebody from the second that they respond to the ad to the second they actually convert on it. So let's say we're selling a bracelet, right? And we're optimizing for purchases. So if we go and if somebody, let's say, clicks the ad and then buys it then and there, he basically converted on a 1-day click because he converted on the same day that he clicked the ad. But let's say he clicks the bracelet and then he doesn't buy 5 days later. So that means that he converted on a 7-day click. Now a 7-day click is basically anything from 2 to 7 days. 1 day is just 1 day. So even if he goes in and clicks it and then only buys it the second day, that's still going to be considered a 7-day click. Or if he buys it, he clicks it, and then after 7 days he goes and buys it, that's still going to be a 7-day click. Now the way we actually use this is that for cheaper products or cheaper, like faster, more direct response ads that usually bring a conversion immediately, we usually do a 1-day click. If it's a more expensive product or a longer funnel, we'll go with a 7-day click. So if we go and let's say we sell a $20 bracelet, again, if we take the example of a bracelet, usually that's a product that's going to be very an impulse buy, especially if there's a lot of scarcity. We're not really trying to build a brand. We're just going in and selling this bracelet on the front end. So 99% of our conversions are going to happen the first time the person clicks the ad. So we'd rather go and click and optimize for a 1-day click. Now, if it's a more expensive product, let's say it's a $100 product or a $150 product, usually it's not going to be an impulse buy. They might see it, they click it, and then buy later on, like a few days after thinking about it, maybe after seeing a bit more of your retargeting ads. So that will basically mean more of a 7-day click. Now, the difference between these two from Facebook's perspective is that it optimizes either on a 1-day or a 7-day. So if let's say all your purchases come only after a few days after they click the ad, then if you do 1 day, Facebook won't really recognize that well enough because it will always restart its optimization in a way on a day-by-day basis, because it looks on how many conversions came on the same day that they clicked the ad. Of course, your reporting will still show whatever it needs to show in terms of how many purchases you got, because the reporting has nothing to do with the conversion window. The reporting is the attribution window. Conversion window is how much you're optimizing for. So to not overcomplicate things, in a nutshell, you should usually optimize for a 1-day click if your product is a more impulse buy, and a 7-day click if it's a less of an impulse buy. But to put matters aside, honestly, even though we've tested both of these with millions of dollars in ad spend, we haven't really noticed that big of a difference. So again, I'm just telling you this just so you know what it is, but we haven't really noticed that big of a difference. But anyway, we try to stick to just what I told you anyway, just because it makes more sense to us. So I hope that made sense. 1 second, let me take a quick sip of my big bottle of water. So we got that settled, 7-day click. Bid strategy used to be maximum and average bid, but today it's lowest cost, bid cap, and target cost. Lowest cost basically meaning automatic bid. Set a bid cap meaning maximum bid. So if there's a specific amount that you want to pay for a conversion, you don't want to go over that, you'll set a bid cap and basically assign how much you want to pay for, let's say, a purchase at this point because of this specific conversion we're optimizing for a purchase. Remember, target cost is the average bid. So it's basically it's like the max bid in a way, but it's less strict. So if you go and you don't want to pay more than $10 for a purchase, you'll go and you set a bid cap for $10 a purchase. But target cost, meaning average bid, if you put $10, it will still find you purchases for over $10, but it will try to find you purchases below $10 as well, and basically it's concluding an average on that $10. Honestly, with any, we've just noticed much better results with MaxBid for usual conversions that are over $10. So basically purchase conversions and so on. Target cost we usually use when it's a very cheap conversion, not even associated even with like e-commerce products, more let's say lead generation. So if we don't want to pay more than like $1 for an email, then we'll usually go with target cost, because the more data that you have, I've noticed that if you're getting like more than 100 conversions a day on the specific ad set, target cost usually optimizes pretty well. But MaxBid optimizes well on anything that gets you like no more than like 20 conversions a day, if that makes sense. Anyway, to keep things simple, because we're all doing, at least at this program, we're talking about e-commerce, Shopify, just stick to the bid cap when you're doing, when you're scaling or when you're doing manual bid. But again, we're going to talk about scaling later on. In default, you want to keep it lowest cost, automatic bidding for testing. We're going to talk about the bid cap later on. This is what we use to scale, and this is what we use to test. When you get charged, this changes depending on what you're optimizing for. So if you're doing video views, you can decide if you want to pay for an impression or for a video view. But again, default is impression. And we have delivery type, which is the either standard delivery, which is 99% of the time you're going to use that, or you're going to use accelerated, which is just like to spend this money as fast as possible, which you're probably never going to use unless you have a specific threshold, not threshold, but a specific deadline, and you need to send out money fast, because this really fucks up your ROI and basically just makes Facebook spend more money, even though it shouldn't necessarily. But if you have, let's say, I have, let's say, a deadline to sell something, and I forgot about it, and I have to sell as much as possible by tomorrow, so I might consider actually using accelerated. But anyway, no need to talk about this. We're probably never going to use this, only standard. So that's the ad set, and then we go to the ad, which is the actually creating the front-end ad, which we're going to talk about later on as well. And that's basically it with the ad manager, and at least all of the metrics inside. So with that being said, we're going to go on to the next lesson.